Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. For 2020, Jamaica showed improvement, albeit little, on the Corruption Perception Index, CPI, produced by Transparency International. We went up from a score of 43 to 44 out of 100. And this means that Jamaica is 69th out of 180 countries. So, do we celebrate or dig deeper in the hopes of improving our status? What does this say about our commitment to attaining a corruption-free society? And is that really a reality? Well, to discuss these and other related questions, we have online Professor Trevor Monroe, Principal Director, National Integrity Action, NIA, and Ms. Jeanette Calder, Executive Director of Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Alan.
I trust you are doing well in spite of all that's happening around us.
More than. I'm giving thanks.
Great.
So am I.
Great.
And I hope you are too, Alan.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks. Well, let me begin with you, Ms. Calder, just to make sure we're all on the same page. For those who do not know or may have forgotten, what really is corruption?
Oh, well, I think the easiest definition, there are longer ones and bigger ones, is basically a public official, and it's good to always start in that context because it has to be seated. It happens between I call it the nexus, the transactional nature when the public official and a private citizen, oftentimes a businessman, come together. But it's basically when a public official abuses state resources. That resource don't have to be money. You can just be the decision maker that allows the contract or whatever it is that private citizen businessman is looking for. But it's an abuse of power by a public official for gain. That gain can be for a friend, an associate, or the person himself. Abuse of state resources that you have access to as a public official for the private gain of another.
So it has to be a public official, Ms. Calder. I mean, what about the regular?
I would be very interested knowing Trevor's pedigree in academia, if he has or if he utilizes a different one. But in the context of the work that JAMP does, and usually in the context in terms of the cancer that JAMP and the team and the board is working and the state agencies to deal with, I can't think of a definition where it would not include the public official. But as I'm saying, it's contextual for me. That is a word that can be used in the private domain, but in the context of the work, or for instance, the corruption perception index that you're referring to, I can't imagine one where a state official or a public official is not involved. But I would love Trevor to weigh in the event that I'm incorrect.
All right, she's inviting you to weigh in, Prof.
Yeah, I agree with Jeanette in what she says, but I believe that it would benefit us to be a little bit broader, because it's very difficult for the public official to abuse his or her office for illicit gain, at least in the very big corruption issues, without conspiring with a private person, more often than not a businessman of some standing. Let me give you one or two concrete examples so that we can make our definition clearer to the man in the street, so to speak. When a public servant or a politician conspires with a businessman or a contractor to award a contract that is your money and my money, or to provide a permit not on the basis of merit, not on the basis of experience, nor on the basis of competing for that particular contract, but is awarded in return for a contribution by the businessman, for example, to the political party's election campaign, or for some other form of benefit, then that's a clear case of corruption in relation to, for example, road repairs, or granting building permits to build high-rise buildings where they should not, or to grant a mining permit to a mining company in breach of environmental rules and regulations. So, in a funny way, one hand can't clap. And to that extent, I believe that the definitions used by Transparency International, the World Bank, and others need to be broadened a bit to encompass not just the use of public position, but the use of power, private or public, for illicit gain, usually at the expense of you and I as taxpayers.
Right. Well, what drove this discussion this morning is the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. Now, how is that determined, really, Prof? How realistic is it, especially in the fact that it's called a perception index?
Well, quickly, first of all, perception. Corruption, unlike murder or wounding or some other crime, benefits both parties involved. So you don't have a body, or you don't have a victim who is willing, if still alive, of course, and family to complain and to make larger complaint. Both the public servant and the private business person benefit. And to that extent, this particular illegal activity is not only hidden, but mutually beneficial at the expense of the public. So what we're left to measure is not so much how many persons have been convicted for corruption, because that may be indicating more the efficiency of the prosecutors or the lack thereof, if they get off, rather than the actual incidence of corruption. So what the international community has more or less agreed on is that 12 or 13 different international institutions like the World Economic Forum or the Economist Intelligence Unit would each year score roughly 180 countries based on expert analysis, based on those who are able to assess the business climate as well as the public institutions, to score each of the countries in respect of how corruption is perceived, primarily in the public sector. And out of that, a number of scores are combined, please excuse me, in Berlin by the Transparency International professionals. And from that, you get a Jamaica scoring 44 or 43. You get Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada, St. Lucia, all doing better than us, above the pass mark, which is accepted to be 50. So when we improve by one, we improve within the failing grade, which, by the way, we're in very bad company. Full comfort that is 2/3 of the countries in the world who fall below that pass mark of 50. So perception is regarded as an important indicator, though not a certain one. When people perceive, for example, if you wanted to assess the people in a particular country, their views on corruption, then you do a survey, which is also done by Transparency International in the Global Corruption Barometer. But the Perception Index is a survey of experts. The Corruption Barometer is a survey of individual citizens. And in the Jamaican case, for many years, our people have regarded corruption as a most serious problem, and therefore we congratulate Morning Watch and others for focusing on it.
Yes. Well, we are 1 minute to the break. Ms. Calder, and then I throw to you as well, Prof. What, in your view, are the main reasons for the only slight improvement in Jamaica's rating?
Well, there have been some. I mean, you asked the question in the beginning, and I said my choice would have been we must celebrate the fact that we have not only been not stagnant, but we moved up one, but at the same time, be dissatisfied with that very small step. I think the fact that we have had, for the first time in a very long time, seeing a minister of government resign.
I'm sorry, Ms. Calder. We are at the break. Please hold that thought.
That would happen.
Sure, we'll be right back.
Okay.
The time by Phoenix Vision Healthcare, your eye center, 65 Main Street, St. Anne's Bay and Champion Plaza, Falmouth, is 7:15 This is Love 101.
You know how Jamaican people do everything extra, right? So why should planning your retirement be any different? Introducing JNGI Silver Shield. 2-in-1 coverage for motor vehicle and home including contents. See? Extra! Imagine 25% JN member discount, emergency roadside assistance, accident forgiveness up to $1 million and more. JNGI Silver Shield. Exclusively for members of the Caribbean community of retired persons. Visit jngi.com. JNGI. We'll help you find a way. A member of the JN Group.
A little extra breathing space makes all the difference. Like many homeowners, you may now need some financial breathing space. Switch to a Sagicor Bank mortgage and get a 2-month payment holiday, attractive interest rate, plus a pre-approved credit card. Make the switch today and get more. With no upfront cost to pay, you'll have a lot more breathing space. Call 888-SAGICOR today. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. We are discussing concerns about the levels of corruption within the Jamaican society with Professor Trevor Monroe and Ms. Jeanette Calder. Ms. Calder, please continue your point in regard
Yes,
to
I was.
slight
And
improvement.
I'm admitting that these points are points that I've heard Trevor doing a really good job of enumerating since the CPI index came out. So, Trevor, I'm crediting you for these because I completely agree with the ones that he has shared with us. He spoke of the fact that all around the world, the COVID spend has gone up in billions for almost every jurisdiction, and it has really forced government auditors across the planet, including our own Auditor General, to not do what we call retroactive. The Auditor General of Jamaica and all the others look 1 year back. It's after a financial year is over, they look back to see did the government agencies spend according to the budget as well as to the rules and regulations around spending. But for the COVID time that we're in, they've all been forced to be doing more real-time auditing. And we have had reports coming from the Auditor General that Trevor has said is we've had relative transparency. And though there have been some hitches in comparison to other jurisdictions, we've done fairly well with our COVID-19 relief package. There's a trial of the Manchester municipal councillors and the fact that they were prosecuted and convicted. The very members, what I like about the St. Anne's Bay mayor being asked to step down and resign is that this didn't necessarily come from the public per se, though there was pressure, but his own councilmen. And that really does augur well, I think. The government coming together with civil society, the leader of the opposition, the business sector, the prime minister, to sign a consensus agreement on crime, which involves corruption, because as you know, those two walk hand in hand. And I think the other one that Trevor has mentioned, which we cannot pass, is the general elections. We have come to take it for granted. But as you can see from the United States example, having elections where the other party is willing to say you win, which I think in this case there was no choice considering the landslide. But it was a fairly safe and civilized, free and fair where Jamaicans were able. And when you think you put all of that together, those are improvements. But I'm sure Trevor will tell us why it is only one step. There are other things that did not happen that needed to happen.
Okay. All right, Prof.
Yes, Dylan, and I'm glad Janet has recalled some of the things that happened which were good. But there are so many others which could and should have happened, which have been chronic over the years, which we failed to do, and that kept us in the failing grade. I mean, we could afford to fail perhaps in years gone by, and I say that cautiously. But no, we cannot afford $1 single of your taxpayers' money and mine going down the drain to the corrupt or to the organized criminal. I give you one simple example. The care package which went out and which had to keep people alive in the early stages of the pandemic, I think total somewhere in the region of 25 billion Jamaican dollars. Billion. Do you know how much we lose each year to organized crime and corruption? $95 billion.
That's billion.
Billion. That's
a minimum.
Wow.
to organized crime and corruption. Let's think what that could do in the current situation where our public servants are legitimately crying out for better remuneration, or nurses or police, the care package needs to be resumed, and so on and so forth. So, yes, we did those things, but we need to and fail to strengthen the anti-corruption framework and to do the things that we said we would have done. For example, I give you a couple cases. The delay in passing legislation to strengthen Jamaica's anti-corruption framework in relation to the major organized crime anti-corruption agency. That's supposed to have been made completely independent of the constabulary force, completely free to investigate corruption in high, middle, and low places by the end of 2020. It hasn't been done. Happily, we now have a deadline of April 1st, and we see and hope and work to make sure that that is met. But even more egregious are promises and commitments made many years ago, for example, to repeal the Official Secrets Act, which is used to intimidate public servants who wish to speak out when they see wrong. You remember recently, I think it was the Cultural Development Commission, when we had a report in the public media, where persons saw wrong, wanted to report it, and were told they were in breach of the Official Secrets Act, passed in 1911, and which in 2011, the Parliament Select Committee had agreed to repeal for that very reason, so that public servants would feel much freer to speak when they see wrong and to ensure that there is no silence in the midst of impropriety. So that's just one example of two examples of legislation that should have been passed to strengthen our anti-corruption framework, which was not done. And of course, turning a blind eye to chronic breaches of transparency and accountability, particularly in relation to the requirements of the Public Bodies Management Accountability Act, under which over 140 different public agencies function. One of the requirements of that law, and on your listeners, is that we, the public, through the Parliament and through the media, need to be informed each year how much money did the National Works Agency spend, or the Water Commission, or the National Solid Waste Agency, or the Urban Development Corporation. Was it spent in a proper manner? Did they fulfill their plans? The law requires that this be done each year within 4 months of the end of the parliamentary year in March. Only one single one of 164 different public agencies were in compliance with that law, as tabulated on the website of the Cabinet Secretary. And anybody can go and look at it and see which agencies were in breach. One of them in breach for 11 years, and no sanctions applied in accordance with the requirements of the law. So that kind of continuous failure undermines the public's ability to keep watch and to do what is necessary to ensure that we do not waste money, literally going down the drain by virtue of improper award of contracts or inadequate oversight when the contracts are awarded.
Yeah, isn't part of the problem and part of the blame to be cast on the public, Miss Calder?
On the public,
in terms of our vigilance and our advocacy?
Well, the question phrased in terms of blame, I think it is more than fair to say that we all contribute to it. I wouldn't necessarily say that if I were to put it in terms of a hierarchy, that the public would have come out on top. But I say yes, because a democracy is designed thinking of the public. It really is that we are the final check and balance in a democracy. We are the employer. Yeah. And I would imagine if we brought it into just the context of our homes, if I had a caregiver or a helper who, when I instruct them, they do whatever they want to. And when they do whatever they want to, it goes counter to what I'm thinking is in the best interest of my home, whether it is to take money, and sometimes it's not taking money, but it's what I've asked them to prepare the meals, and they say, well, and I've heard helpers say this, well, this is what I like, so this is what I prepare. We wouldn't tolerate that for long. So it's no different. We hire every 4 or 5 years, we open up 63 government posts. An election is really a job recruitment process. And we have 163, well, 126 citizens step forward to say, give me this job. And when we give them the job, I can't think of anybody who is running even the smallest patty shop to the biggest conglomerate who, after you hire someone, you just leave them up to themselves. You would agree. And that is, in essence, what we have done as citizens. So, yes, by virtue of the fact that we are the employer and this is our business, this is our home, then to the extent that we don't understand how it runs, to the extent that we don't understand how the parliament really work, because that is where
Miss Calder?
every day. Hello?
Seem to have lost Miss Calder. Prof, are you still online?
Oh.
Yes, I'm still with you.
Hello?
Hello?
Are you hearing me?
Miss Calder, Prof?
Yes.
Yes, I'm with you.
Seem to have lost both individuals.
Trevor, you can hear
Listeners,
me?
if you're hearing me, we're
No,
going to
Rev,
take
they're
a
on.
quick
They're
break
on.
and then we're right back.
Rev, they're on the line.
Oh, I'm still on.
Okay.
I am too.
Miss Calder is still there? Okay, good.
Yes. Sorry.
Continue, Miss Calder. Well, what are your recommendations and our suggestions?
Well, I think crime is very different from corruption. And the reason I do this work is because I think we have been led to believe that it is intractable. I mean, from a biblical perspective, I think as early as Exodus 23, God was speaking about what should be done for those who are corrupt and those who have taken bribes. So this thing has been with us a long time. However, I am 100% convinced, as Trevor said, if we are losing a minimum of 95 billion, we can claw back at least half of that. And how do we do it? Why is it I'm saying it's not as difficult as, say, crime? Because we have an institution, for example, as the Auditor General, that audits every single agency of government, both for what they spend on performance, and gives us a report every year. And these are the three simple things that we have to look for to know where is this $95 billion being leaked from, because it is coming from one of the 147 agencies and 14 ministries, yeah? And that the three things are this. Wherever you find very poor oversight of an agency, so the parent ministry is not getting financial reports, as Trevor says, and they are not ensuring that they review it. Wherever you find that the procurement, so the three things are poor oversight, poor financial reporting, and an ignoring of the procurement rules of Jamaica. Wherever those three things dovetail, Doc, and your listeners, that is precisely where we need to focus. And it's not difficult to find out where those are, because every year the government auditor gives us a very clear, almost like an arrow saying, here is where the problem is. So that's one of the things I think we have to do. Just realize that the government itself has the answers in that report and simply need to act on it. The next thing we have to do, and I only would recommend two in the interest of time, is going back to what I said. We are the final check and balance. We have elected members of parliament to represent us, but somehow we have been left to believe that it's the job of the opposition to really provide the oversight. It's every MP. So, for example, this report that is given not just to the MPs and the parliament, but to the people of Jamaica, every one of us can look at it. It's a download away from on the website. Can simply say to your member of parliament, you guys have never debated this report. Every year the losses are in the millions, and yet you have never tabled and put it on the agenda to be debated by our representatives. Everybody listening to me this morning, if you were to get in touch with your MP and simply say, MP, when you go down there next Tuesday, what are you going to do to ensure this is on the agenda for debate? And ask him for concrete actions. That is where I think the citizen now should be held to account, because we are not having that conversation with our MPs. How can they represent your view if you are not telling them what your view is and what it is you expect of them? So those are just very small things but powerful things that you can do. And all the things that we can list that the government needs to do, ask your MP, what concrete actions will you take in the House to get this moving forward, and then follow up on that.
Prof, you can do it in half a minute.
Well, first of all, I agree the citizens need to be more aware that each corrupt act impacts their pockets in terms of being able to get the correct appropriate wages, get the infrastructure, the roads, hospitals, law enforcement. Secondly, to enforce the law, to demonstrate that corruption does not pay, whether you're in high places as a minister or in low places. So if you don't demonstrate that corruption does not pay, then people feel that we can get away with it. And
Thank
that's
you.
something that we can implement immediately.
Thank you. We have to leave it there. I want to thank Ms. Calder and Prof. Monroe for joining us this morning for what I regard as an informative and insightful session. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
And you too. All the very best.
Great. The Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
JN Bank Live Online Banking is your quick and easy banking that's safe and secure. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way. The time is
7:31.
Are you doing enough to protect the health of your parents and grandparents? Our nation's elderly are the most vulnerable group of citizens to die from COVID-19. It is our duty as family members, caregivers, and community to protect their health and well-being. Let's do our part. Wear your mask around them. Wash and sanitize your hands when you are in their space. Provide comfort and emotional support during these very stressful times. Assist them with activities where there is a challenge or a need. Let us show our seniors that we truly care. For further information, contact the National Council for Senior Citizens toll-free 888-SENIORS or 876-736-4677 or call 876-906-9277 or visit www.mlss.gov.jm. A message from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
I know, man. She gets out of bed even when she doesn't feel like it. She works long hours and rarely gets a break. She gives of herself every single day and has a very important job.
Here you go, sweetie. Do you need anything else?
But this woman is not only a nurse, she is also my mom. And Malta helps her care for herself so she can look after everybody else. And me too. Thanks, Mommy. Thanks, Malta.
Malta is full of life.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Well, let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, cops demand tasers for clashes with the mentally ill. And then Midland Prep in Clarendon, plagued by thieves. Anglicans toast Bishops Thompson and Reed for sterling service. And in the Observer, 92 arrests for electricity theft in 2020, 10 since January. Locally invented maths game touted as remedy for Jamaican students. Interesting. And then senior citizens say they trust efficacy of the COVID vaccine. Those are some of the highlights in the newspapers. Please take a read. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp questions. What are your solutions to the problems and horrors of those who are homeless and on the road? Leave a comment on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
It's our anniversary. Woohoo! It's Love 101 FM's 28th anniversary, and we have loads in store for you. Tune in each day on our FM band 101 YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook page, and be a part of Love. Woohoo! It's our anniversary.
Mr. Juice, pile up, we have it by the crate. Cheers to me, real friends and not the ones that fake.
Have some issues and concerns in your community that you wish could be attended to now? Want a platform to voice those concerns? This could be the place for you. Send your 30-second voice notes describing your issue to 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. Be sure to type a voice for hope before sending the voice note. Then listen on Tuesday at 9:45 a.m. for a voice for hope. Share the concerns you have seen. You know that street light that has not been working for a long time, or your community has not had water for 2 weeks now? Yes, here's somewhere you can share it. And maybe, just maybe, we can get some love on your situation. Remember now, send a 30-second voice note describing your issue and type a voice for hope before sending your voice note to 876-997-3125. A voice for hope. It's a problem, and we need a solution now. Love 101 FM, the family station, bringing a voice to your situation.
PSOJ's Crime Stop Jamaica Unsolved. We need your help to solve the murder of 50-year-old Wayne Stanbury, CEO of Beridon Financial Services, who was shot to death at 8:25 a.m. on Sunday, February 16, 2020, in the parking lot of Emmanuel Apostolic Church, Slipe Road, Kingston. Mr. Stanbury exited his SUV and was shot several times in the upper body by a lone gunman. He died on the spot. Crime Stop Jamaica and family members are offering a total reward of 200,000 Jamaican plus US $4,000 for information leading to the arrest and charge of those responsible. Call Crime Stop Jamaica 311. Solving crime pays.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Thanks for staying with us. Well, we're now going to the second watch, and there's this headline that the Gleaner had recently: homeless horror, streets filled with trembling as 4 chopped to death in Kingston. And subsequent to that, 1 more homeless individual died as a result. And for many of us, that headline sent chills and shivers through our bodies, and many questions no doubt came to mind. How could this have happened, and who? Was it 1 or 2 persons? Was it a gang? Why was it done? What did anyone have to gain? Who were the dead? What were their crimes? What kind of horror is this? Well, to respond to these and other related issues, we have joining us this morning Brother Alfonso Mutembi, brother with the Missionaries of the Poor, the Reverend Major Stanley Griffin, Circuit Minister with the Methodist Churches in Monique. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Yes, good to have you both. Thanks for joining us this morning. Well, let me begin with you, Major Griffin, because Major, you're once involved with the Salvation Army.
Yes, I'm a retired minister from the Salvation Army. I served them for 40 years, and I retired in 2019.
40 years.
I work in various capacity. 2019.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
This February, I celebrate 2 years since I retired from the Salvation Army after serving them for 40 years.
Right, and it's against that background that we call upon you this morning. Apart from the obvious, Major, who really constitutes a homeless person? And is there a difference between a homeless person and a street person?
Well, a street person may most of the time have a place to go at home at night when they come off the street. Mm-hmm. Most homeless people live on the street, right? Mm-hmm. Once they get a taste of the street culture, they find it very difficult to live under a structure in terms of having a bath, going to bed at a certain time, and having chores and having responsibilities. Once they get on the street and they adopt the lifestyle on the street, where there are no regulation imposed on them, there are no restrictions, and there are no overheads neither, because the society take care of them in terms of feeding them. Some provide clothes, some even provide opportunities where they can get a bath, some even get medical attention, and so forth. And it's a kind of living kind of free, careless, without any overhead responsibilities. But also they are exposed to various dangers as they live on the street. So there's a dynamic difference between the street person and the homeless.
Yes. Brother Alfonso, the missionaries of the poor have been involved in ministry to these people over the years. How widespread would you say it is across Jamaica, Brother Alfonso?
Well, I really want to say, first of all, I would like to, to thank the community, the missionaries of the poor, and especially our father founder, Father Holong.
Yes.
And the current governance, is Grace Bishop Harris, and the council members of the missionaries of the poor. And we have been doing this work over the years. As you know, our community was founded in 1981 here in Kingston, Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And this was done purposely to cater for the homeless and the destitute. And I will say, from that time, we have accommodated a lot of people in our properties, in Jamaica, where we have 7 homes that cater for different people, the vulnerable children with disabilities, people with the HIV, the pregnant mothers also are catered for by the sisters. We have boys, so it's all types, and having done these activities over the years, we see still people are increasing with the means, to be accommodated and to be catered for. So it is really alarming, to see how, the vast crowd, of the people in the street and without food, some of them, with the wounds, and really, and it's a concern for me and for our community, how really we can cater for these people. And I believe this is a turning point, for you really organizing something like this to see how we can help, and how we can really work together to restore the dignity of these people who are left there in the cold, without anything to eat. I would say really they are completely deprived of the basic means that that we can have.
Brother Alfonso?
Yes.
Oh dear. Major, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here, yes.
Not hearing either Major or Brother Alfonso.
Their Honor, I'm not sure what's happening with your line.
Okay, just a minute. Any better?
Shavani, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yes.
We're hearing you.
Yes.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Yes. Well, continue.
Shavani?
Yes, continue, Brother Alfonso. We'll connect with Rev. So go ahead with your point.
Okay, great. Yes. So as I was saying, it is really amazing to see how the people have increased in the street. People really who are in need of us, of our care. And when I look at it, we all need to really feel that we are really blessed. Each one of us, the non-government organizations, the government organization and so forth, and other organizations that cater for other humanitarian agencies that take care of the people, how we can partner to take care of these people. Looking at it, in the street, especially in the downtown where we have most of our homes, as you know, that we're in the south side of Kingston, Jamaica. The Ironbound Street, the Law Street. We have all these people that we have, collecting from street. Some people are in the hospitals, are left in the hospitals and so forth, without anyone to claim for them. So missionaries of the poor have tried the level best, to accommodate these people. And the point that comes in my mind when I see these people is that they are not lesser than human beings. Sometimes to see how they are treated or how we look at them. We need to see that these people are also created in the image and likeness of God. And if really we are godly people, we need to look at these people as we could see God suffering in them. So seeing the image of Christ disfigured, in the street, without food, without clothes, without medication, the things that we would long for,
What Alfonso?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we're going to take a quick break and be right back.
You're tuned to Love 101, the family station. It's now 7:45.
A little extra breathing space makes all the difference. Like many homeowners, you may now need some financial breathing space. Switch to a Sagicor Bank mortgage and get a 2-month payment holiday, attractive interest rate, plus a pre-approved credit card. Make the switch today and get more. With no upfront cost to pay, you'll have a lot more breathing space. Call 888-SAGICOR today. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and we are examining the horrors of the homeless, causes and concerns, especially in light of what took place over the past couple of days, with 5 of the homeless persons being killed. And we are doing so. We have online Brother Alfonso Mutembi from the Missionaries of the Poor and Major Stanley Griffin from the Salvation Army. Major?
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah. What are the main reasons for persons becoming homeless?
Well, there are many factors. There are many factors. Some because of economical situation. Some find themselves not being able to pay their housing, and they are put on the street. Some because of mental issues. There are a number of factors that drive people to live on the street. We can never tell what our circumstances may be. I mean, today we find ourselves in a good job, and tomorrow something happens and causes us to be on the other end of the stick in terms of life situation. And not many people can handle crisis when it confronts them. And sometimes the only course of action is to sleep under a bridge and so forth. Some may have mental situation that drives them to this, but life is so uncertain, and sometimes a death in the family can also create situations where that individual was the anchor person in the family, where that the main sustainer, the main one who provided, and then they find themselves out in the cold. I think one of the things that we have lost in the society is our love for one another, as Jesus reminded us, to love your neighbors as yourself. And greed at times have taken so much control of us that we only think of ourselves. And in doing so, many times we cause others to suffer. It's a really sad situation when it comes to the homeless, because each time you confront and talk with them, they have so many different stories. Some are well educated, some were employees, some were doing quite well, and situations develop. But how do we respond? How do we respond as a people, as a nation that claim itself to be a Christian society? How do we respond? And at times we need to take a closer look, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. And when I read the newspaper and see the sad occurrence of what has happened, I wonder what kind of heart these people have. I mean, they're already suffering as homeless. They're already under difficult situation. They don't have the privileges of having a warm bath or having a blanket to cover them from the cold atmosphere. But what can get in someone's heart to inflict and wound and cause more pain and suffering on these people? So there are a number of situations that drives people to, and it's only when we find ourselves, when it hits home to our own relatives and family, that we can get concerned, because we always think of them homeless people, those homeless people, you know. And when we pass on the street and we see them, we cross the other side of the road and we skin up our nose and so forth. But we must remember that we are all God's people, created in God's image. And when we learn to love one another as ourselves, it does not take anything for us to extend that love and treat each other as brothers and sisters.
Well, Major, it is said that many of the homeless persons choose to return to the streets even when they are offered lodging by the state and other agencies. Is this your understanding? And why is that so?
Yes, my experience when I served in Belize many years ago and served on the government task force, what we discovered is that once they get a culture of living on the street, they do not want to be restricted. We ran a home for the homeless where they had to be in by 5, had a bath, had supper, had a change of clothes, and go to bed. Okay, and what we will discover that they will come in and they will eat and they'll have a bath. Those who wish to come in, and then they go back on the street. They seem to find more comfort and joy being on the street with others and even with animals, because you will notice that most homeless people attract a lot of dogs, right? A lot of the dogs become their companions, and you wonder at times, what is the connection? What is the connection? But what we have discovered that they do not want to be restricted. They don't want to be under a schedule. They want to be out there enjoying freedom.
How do you do with that though, Major? Because, you know, it's unsafe out there, as 2 weeks ago has shown us and reminded us. How do we deal with that?
That's a very good question. But you have to understand that men's hearts are wicked. And, you know, as a boy growing up in the days gone by, it used to be a joy for boys to take a stone and stone dogs, right? But we have moved away from that now. We are now attacking our own. And I think it's because of lack of love and understanding, you know. Being on the street for some of these homeless, I think that they find it more a sense of happiness, a carefree situation, and they don't mind taking the risk, even though they are exposed to the elements, even though they are exposed to many dangers. Some of them may not even be able to have a proper bath or have their hair combed and so forth. But just being free with nothing to worry about, I think that attracts them. And you don't, and you don't know what their home situation may be. You don't know if their very family are the ones who drive them out. Yeah. You know, there are a number of things.
Factors. You mentioned being unsafe. Brother Alfonso? Yeah, with the recent killings, I mean, 5 persons have died. Right. Based on your contact and connection with them, how are the homeless taking it? How are they? What are their responses and reactions to this?
In fact, before this happened, I think 2 weeks before the incident, I met 2 of the guys we had accommodated at Tower Street 2 years ago. And I want to share this particular case of one gentleman, you know, originally from Cameroon. You know, he went to Spain. He was working there. You know, he was cooking as a chef and so forth. And then later on, he came to Jamaica looking for a job. You know, and he was here illegally, and you know, he was put into jail. And when he came out, you know, a good friend of ours, a doctor from Congo, referred him to the Missionaries of the Poor. And this guy has been with us from 2009. And it happens while I was, you know, driving from downtown at Highborn Street. I met him at knocking at the door at one of our homes. They are run by the sisters now, all the innocent sisters. I mean, missionaries for the poor sisters. He was knocking the door there begging. And when I look at him, I recognize him because, I worked with him for a long time there. I was helping him there. He could trim the hair very well. He could eat well. He could dress well. He could go to church. But he was completely disfigured. And I was surprised and, really disappointed to see how he looked. And I asked him, his name was Charles. Charles, why you choose to go back to the street? And he was telling me, brother, one of the things there, I am free. I can beg anything that I want. I can go anywhere I want. You don't need to tell me to come at this hour. You don't need to tell me to go inside or to take shower. I am free and I'm okay like this. But sharing about what Manja just said about the mental issues, I think this is one of the major problems because these people, some of them, somehow they are not normal. They are unable to handle the stress, and the chaos and conflict from the families.
Sorry, Brother Alfonso, is Charles still out there now?
He is there. He's right there still.
So how they responding to the recent killings? What have you been picking up?
To tell you the truth, yes, I was so surprised, and I was planning. It is good that we go to try to convince him with another gentleman called Garfield. Also, both of them, they say they want to be free. In fact, Charles, we referred him to Hoppenham Center, that is at across the Winwan Road, 16 and up Winwan Road, and he was staying there for a while. But the recent news that I got is that he also misbehaved there, and he was kicked out. So he ended up with he's staying nowhere. So to tell you the truth, we have been having a lot of plans on how we can bring these people. But now with the current situation, with this COVID, we were kind of fighting. As some of our people were victims of the COVID. So we have also to think about the people that we have, But I wish there is a way, we could even do much better.
So yes, it's a lot. It's a lot. Major Griffin,
yes, sir.
Yes, any final thoughts?
Well, I still believe that as a people we need to show our love for one another, in reaching out, despite of all the circumstances and situation. We must remember that God created all of us in His image, and Jesus commanded us to love one another as we love ourselves. And once we can have that reality and becomes a practical experience, it would not be difficult to reach out. As our brother said, these people love their freedom. These people love to be out there and to enjoy life from their perspective.
Independent.
We may not understand it. But you will notice that most of the homeless have a joy of carrying 2 or 3 or 4 bags around and dogs and they just enjoy life.
But then, I'm sorry, Major, there was a concern, I think, years ago about even persons who attempt to feed them. Because persons were also making it a PR stunt. And also what was given to them, there was concern about, the efficacy and hygiene and all of that in regards to the food that was even given to them. Your take on that?
Yes, but government have tried to bring structure in place. They have tried to prevent feeding on the street, where they have centers where people are encouraged to take the food to the centers, and they are supervised and support. Yes, people would take advantage of any situation for their own personal gain. But I believe there are more good than bad out there. I believe that there are still individuals and still organizations and still churches that reach out to the homeless and try and to help them and to lend a helping hand.
So we have to leave it at that, gentlemen. I want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. I think we learned a lot about the homeless and what's taking place with the ministry there.
And thank you for it. Yeah, thank you for inviting us to be with you. And may God bless each and every one of you and continue to do your good work. Love FM. May God bless you.
Bless you too. Major Griffith and also Brother Alfonso. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information on how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Miss Kathy Gale, and our guest, I'm Dylan Toussaint, reminding you to be purposeful, faithful, thankful, and watchful as I hand you back to Love in the Morning with Siobhan Blair.
What's playing in the background? You know what's playing?
What?
You know what's playing?
What's that?
You know what's playing in the background?
No. What's it?
Happy anniversary!
For who?
Really?
Okay, if we're talking about mine, it's tomorrow.
Well, we started from today.
How did you know that, Siobhan?
No worries. I know all things.
Thank you, sir, on behalf of my wife.
I know.
Thanks. Really nice.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we started from today. His anniversary is tomorrow. Oh boy, Mrs. Toussaint, good morning.
Grace Tropical Rhythms with reduced sugar but with the same love. With Grace, you have better choices for a better life.
The time brought to you by Grace Kennedy is
8:01, folks, on the family station Love 101. It's time for the program Forward in Faith, brought to you by the Portmore New Testament Church of God.
The Lord heard we take our songs and we are now will lead away. Yes, Lord, sure.
Good morning to you. Thank you to another day. Pastor Bishop, he started on the topic just faith. After this song, we could with him continues station.
No.